What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Dag Life Podcast here at the D. Nagler Group in San Diego with your host, Louis Bizzano. Today's very special guest is a super fun guy, someone who is what I like to call the jack of all trades and an anomaly in the best way possible, Mr. Steve Cooper.
Thanks for having me.
What's up,
I'm
dude?
so excited. Finally.
I'm pumped.
Yes,
I'm
I'm excited too.
Obviously we talk a lot about personalities, right? A
Uh-huh.
lot of people have strong personalities on the team.
hmm
We're both one of them. And that's why I feel like one, we gel, and two, it's why I gel with a lot of people like that on our team. So it's
hmm
super fun. So I feel like we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna
All
have some
right.
fun. Super excited to chat with you today and learn a little bit more about Steve, Mr. Cooper. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into real estate and how long you've been in the game.
I've been at 20 years. I started a long time ago. I used to live in Chicago. Then turn of the century, moved to Washington, D.C., was chasing a telecom job, and then got laid off in the telecom bubble burst. Bought my first house out there and couldn't find a job, was really struggling, and then ended up selling my place and made a ton of money because that was right after 9/11. And property values exploded once the dust settled. Properties value exploded. I saw the value in real estate, moved back to Chicago, partnered up with a good friend of mine. We bought an apartment building, did a condo conversion there, made a little bit more money, and then hightailed it out to San Diego because this is where I have always wanted to live.
Love that.
And then convinced the company I was working for then to move me out there because I didn't have the guts to be like most people. They could sell everything and just move to California. I needed a company to pay my freight. So convinced the company to move me out there, started out in Newport Beach, and then realized very quickly that if they found out what I did in that job, they were going to fire me because I really wasn't doing anything. And then just knew real estate was the direction for me. So immediately, I remember going to the Huntington Beach Pier, writing out goals to be done with that job by my birthday, and it almost happened exactly that way. And then got myself down to San Diego and started real estate.
I love that.
Yeah.
I got you. So it's funny, right? Having all these conversations and hearing a little bit about everyone's journey. I
hmm
know we've talked a little bit too, like when we did an open house together out in Oceanside, but it's amazing to hear the power of everyone's struggles is what brings them to like the aha moment where it's like, this is what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously going from, being laid off and struggling, being in the
hmm
DC area and then back to Chicago and having something that kind of opened your eyes to be like, fuck, this is something I need to pursue.
Yeah.
And I think it takes everyone in life that kind of moment to be like,
hmm
this is what I got to do.
Yeah.
And then obviously the balls with going through with it, right? There's a lot of fear of the uncertainty.
hmm
But, from an entrepreneurial mindset, that uncertainty is what drives us to be ambitious enough to have the courage to go after things that we want the most, right? And
Yeah.
and knowing intuitively that's what you want to do is amazing because I'm similar story myself, right? Came out
hmm
here or moved to Vegas from Jersey just on a whim like that
hmm
because I knew there was a different purpose for me instead of staying in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So it's super amazing to hear in terms of like what drew you to real estate. Obviously, was a lot about opportunity, but
hmm
what was it about California that drew you to want to be here?
So my first job out of college, I worked for a company in Canton, Ohio, and they were flying me out to San Diego all the time because there are a bunch of trade shows for college and universities always happen out here.
Right.
And I'd come in the middle of winter, and it's beautiful here, and the weather's amazing. I remember going to the UTC Mall a long, long time ago, and being in short sleeves while it was snowing at home, and that's what got me the bug to want to move to San Diego. And it took a long time for me to get here. You talk about ambition and getting out and entrepreneurial mindset. I was terrified that I couldn't generate a paycheck and that's kind of what my boost was. And I've realized that I kind of operate a little bit better if I can create some type of sheer terror in my life. So it's something that works better for me. And it took me a while to learn that.
Agreed, and I honestly think from an entrepreneurial mindset, most of us do,
hmm
right? It's almost like the chase that
hmm
excites us, but it's also knowing that we're going to get out as much as we put in, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that draws me not only in real estate but also the business entrepreneurial mindset and scope of like kind of work is that there's no ceiling. There's no
Yeah.
limit to what you can achieve, what you can do, how far you can go, and what you can accomplish. And to me, that's the most exciting part is because it's always about pushing myself of how much further can I go to get to where I want to be. and it sounds like there's a similar mindset there, right? Kind of looking back at what you were previously doing well before real estate, did you ever imagine real estate would be in the realm of like possibilities or something you would ever consider?
No, I didn't. So between jobs when I was living in Chicago, I went to the Philippines for a month to go scuba diving. And one of my buddies I met out there, he owned a construction company in Louisiana. And I remember once he told me, he's like, you'd be a really good real estate agent. And I thought real estate agents were so beneath me. I was like, are you crazy? I want to be like an entrepreneur. I want to do this stuff and this. And it just never occurred to me that was even a possibility. And it's so fun. He unfortunately passed away, but I've always wanted to tell him, like, damn it, you were right.
He knows.
Yeah, exactly.
He's looking down, man. He knows. He knows. He definitely knows. He's definitely
Yeah,
looking down, smiling. It's probably one of the things that continues to drive you too. Just kind of having that in the back of your head, which is
yeah.
exciting. What has the journey been like in real estate for you? Call it the last like 5 or so years.
It's hard. It's been really, really hard. There's the flexibility in it, which is a tool. Which means you can either harm yourself with flexibility or you can help yourself with it.
100%.
And the market's been changing, and honestly, I've been really resisting going into a team environment for the longest time.
I remember our
And
first call. That's one of the main things you talked about.
yeah, it was a big, something I didn't want to do. And then, it got really slow, especially the last couple of years. And I just realized that I needed to make some changes and embrace what I knew was happening. I knew teams were going to be taking over.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I was hoping that I'd be so successful I didn't need to do that. But I think that I missed out on a really big real estate deal the last few months. And I think about this all the time. If I would have gotten that deal, I probably wouldn't have come here. And I have zero regrets coming here. So it's funny, you call it the universe. I think it's God. I look at how things work for you, and I'm super excited the way it's turned out.
I love that, dude, and something I've been living. I think a lot of us do, right? Everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so much like a I don't think like everything's fate related, but
Mm-hmm.
there is a purpose to everything in alignment with your life. And shit, it's tattooed on my arm.
Yeah.
Amia causa fiunt. In Latin, everything happens for a reason. So,
Uh-huh.
and I got this at like fucking 23 years old. So I agree completely. And I know, our first conversation on our call about potentially joining the team was you brought that up about like you never saw yourself being on a team.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of conversations that we have with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And to your same point, most people can kind of see the landscape of real estate changing, at least in San Diego,
Yeah.
with teams being the way to go, with a very
Mhm.
team culture heavy focus on real estate, right?
Right.
A lot of the solo agents are the ones that are unsuccessful or kind of falling out of the business. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that don't know what changes have happened or how to adjust to the changes, right? So
Right.
it definitely takes that kind of mindset of like, I gotta change what I'm not changing.
Yeah.
And you said it yourself, right? The flexibility, it can either harm you or help you.
Yeah.
And it goes with, one of those things where any entrepreneurship wave of business is you're going to get out what you put in. And what
Mm-hmm.
you've been putting in, you're getting out tenfold, and it's going to continue to compound. So that's definitely exciting. What would you say has been, at least this year, right? Whether it's with the changes going on, how the last 12 months of your career has been going, is something that's been the most exciting for you?
It's really joining this team because I see now that I'm on a team and I hear how other people talk about their teams and how leads are split up, how these guys get listings, these guys get buyers, um, how Dean and Aphrodite run the team has been very, very exciting for me. So that's probably my favorite part of it.
Love that.
And then finding a gas pedal. I've always wanted, and seriously, in 20 years of real estate, I've always wondered, like, where's the place that I can put all my energy into and create income for myself? And I never could find it. I really couldn't. And being here right now, it's the Zillow Flex leads that we're getting, and focusing and concentrating on that, and it's just opened up a lot of possibilities for me. I'm excited about
Opportunity.
that. Yeah,
Opportunity.
exactly.
It's the DAG is the land of opportunity, right? Is
Hmm.
what I typically tell people, because it's not only you can do a bunch of different things, and we have so many conversations with people where it's like, hey, I'm forced to do this, I'm forced to do that, I don't like doing this, I don't like doing that. And the conversation I have with people is we don't force anyone to do anything. You
Hmm.
just got to do something.
Yeah.
right? It's you got to find out what you do enjoy doing, what you want to improve on, and let us help you get there or coach you there. And having that open mind of like you have to do something in real estate if you want to do anything in real
Yeah.
estate. So aside from like that component, one thing I always like to ask people is upon your first couple of weeks or your first couple of visits,
Hmm.
what was the one thing where you're like, this is home?
Uh, it was the role playing.
Okay.
I really like the role playing. In fact, I kind of wish we did it a little bit more intensely than we do.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely, when I first came in, there were a lot of changes happening. The new NAR
Of course.
settlement, all that stuff was happening. So that was all important. And seeing it in action was huge. And then going out into the real world and talking to other agents and other support staff in real estate. I've been in here a long time, so I know a lot of people that are in real estate,
Right.
and hearing how much they're struggling to something that for us seems so simple
Right.
is pretty incredible.
It's intense,
You know?
right? It's
Yeah.
the conversations we have with other people where they're like, hey, how are you guys handling this? It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
we're 3 months into this. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And we've been training on it for 3, 4 months prior to the changes even happening.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people the biggest value of being with a team, whether it's a smaller team or a big team, is that
Hmm.
you have those changes much earlier than the individual agent or broker owner that's
Hmm.
been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing.
Hmm.
No, you haven't.
Yeah.
This is 3 months new for everyone. Everyone had a fresh start on August 17th, where
Yeah.
you haven't been doing this for 30 years. It's completely different scope of business and how you handle and process things. So the value of at least what I feel the team brings is just the quicker adjustment than being solo
Yeah.
and having the collaborative and contribution to the team itself as a whole.
Yeah.
In terms of like, I remember us talking at the open house we did where things come up in life and things, we have to act and
Hmm.
respond and changes happen all the time. There's something you told me about that you and your wife experienced.
We're going
And
there.
huh?
We're going there.
I
Yeah.
do want to go there
No, it's great.
because I do think it's a testament to like one, your personality, and two, also your ability to like handle things, right?
Uh-huh.
So working with you for several months now and being a partner on the team is
Hmm.
you're able to have difficult conversations, you're able to adjust to things, you're able to think on the fly, and I
Hmm.
think this is super an amazing story.
Yeah.
And it's something when you told me, you're like, yeah, I don't really tell people this often, but it's actually kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, you guys are fucking superheroes. And
I'm
it's
not. My wife is.
your wife is
Yeah.
she's a saint and a superwoman, and I want to hear a little bit more about that story.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about my daughter being born on the 5 freeway.
On the 5 freeway.
Yes, she's 7 now, and she is so proud to have been born on the 5. If she looks for a source of strength, she's like, I can do this because I was born on the 5.
Love it.
So, but yeah, my daughter was born on April 19th on her due date, which my wife is very proud of. And we're going down the 5 freeway, and we're driving by Encinitas Scripps. And I looked at my wife, I'm like, should we go to this hospital? And yeah, how insurance is. It's a nightmare, right? Yeah. So she's like, no, we're going to our hospital because she didn't want to have to deal with the insurance. Right. Melissa handles all the administrative stuff in the house. So all right, I kicked
boss,
it
like
in.
normal.
Yeah, of course it's raining. 3 in the morning, pedal to the metal, driving way too fast with a pregnant wife who's screaming because she's in pain. And we pulled over at Cardiff, and she got out of the car and she's like, I think the baby's coming. And I started swearing a ton and telling her to get back in the car. We got back in the car, and as we're getting back on the freeway, she goes, I can see the baby's head. And I look and I see our baby's head.
Holy
So I
shit.
pulled over, jumped out of the car, pulled her out and set her on my wife's chest. We didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. So that was the first thing I looked like. She's a girl. She's beautiful. Jumped back in the car. And I'm very proud of this. I feel like it was a NASCAR pit stop. Less than 30 seconds, we were back on the freeway. My wife said, should we call an ambulance? And I'm like, no way. The thought of waiting for someone to help us at that moment
100%.
was terrifying to me.
You already made it to that point. Get to the finish line.
Exactly. And you can tell instantly that my daughter wasn't in distress. She looked fine. She wasn't crying or anything, but she didn't look in distress. So I felt fine that, nothing else needed to be done.
Yeah.
And then, that we still had, this is the most amazing thing to me. We still had about half an hour to go to get to the hospital.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. So yeah, to get from there to what, Kearney Mesa, I think is where
At
Shark
3
Money Birch
a.m.
is. Yeah, so we got down there
Dude,
and that was it. So, but that's so I think say everything in Disney analogies now, but I think now I would say like in Frozen 2, they talked about you just need to do the next right thing, and I think about that in transactions. I tell my clients this. I was like, we just need to take the next step, and then see what happens after that. And that's kind of what I did then. Is you know,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Dude, that's
So
incredible. And it's crazy to think about when it comes to like human beings, when you have like innate ability to react and respond to things like that.
yeah,
You pretty much had no other choice. And you
no,
just went into father mode, dad mode, husband mode,
yeah,
and she went into obviously wife, mother mode, and you guys just fucking crushed it.
yeah,
That's one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard. Because if you honestly think about it, it could have gone a completely different direction. Obviously,
yeah,
God bless it didn't. But you
yeah,
guys did a great job. So it's amazing to hear that kind of story.
yeah.
And I do like to think everyone, from a human perspective, is
Hmm.
we have powers. And from like an innate kind of intuition, like that's a superpower for you guys.
Yeah.
And it's super cool to hear.
Yeah, it
Um,
was my wife that had the superpower to get
oh yeah,
through that. Like I can't even imagine, like the pain and all that stuff that happened. But
without being in a hospital bed,
yeah, exactly.
that's
But
wild.
I mean, we survived as a species this long, so you know.
Yeah, well,
But
hey, we know where things are at these
yeah,
days, but
yeah.
that's an incredible story. One thing I kind of want to revert back to is, kind of like looking ahead, just in life in general, right?
Hmm.
What are some things that you're super excited about, just kind of in general, from a family scope, career wise? Like, what does that look like for you? That you're super like, hey, this is my next milestone.
Um, Gee, that's a good question. We're my wife and I are obsessed with our kids, and they're, we're very proud of them. They do good in school and they do good in sports, and I think that's about all you focus on with kids right now at this age,
And you're super
So
involved with the sports component with them, right?
yeah, I'm coaching my son's basketball and football teams,
Nice.
which surprises me because they hook you in by saying, "Oh, it's only an hour practice, an hour for a game."
Hell no.
And so I'm like, okay. And I was trying to coach everything, and the brain space that it takes, especially football, is crazy. So I had to back off a little bit, but there's so much satisfaction in getting to know the kids and learning to meet them at their level and at
Right.
their space, and not trying to do too much with them. And I try to do that with my clients too. I think about when we look at homes, this is first time home buyer. Even if they bought like 3 or 4 homes in the past, like getting to where they are. And I always try to imagine myself sitting on the same side of the table as them when we're negotiating, so they know. Because sometimes you can get caught up and you're trying to get the deal for your client, and your client can feel like you're working against me because
Right.
you're telling me this information. And I found like just imagining being on their side of the table to help. So that's what the kids have helped. But as far as like goals for our family, we're hoping to do a little bit more travel. My wife is she's not working right now. She's built an incredible business in her past, and now she's starting to look for a job. So I think the family is kind of shifting into getting behind Melissa and helping her to her next step, because she's a heavy hitter, and we're very proud of her, and we want her to be as successful as she wants to be. But also, I want to be successful enough that she's doing this because it's what she wants to do, and kind of ease back from her feeling like she has to do it,
Right. That's
you know?
amazing. And that's it. And it sounds like there's a lot of synergy and alignment there within like your marriage, and obviously at home, the alignment you have with kids in sports, the alignment you have with clients. And we always talk about alignment instead
Hmm.
of butting heads, just like
Yeah.
we talk about alignment with other agents on the other side.
Yeah.
And again, that's another thing that you're great at doing, is the ability to talk and communicate and align with people. And when it comes to sports, I'm assuming there's some nostalgia from like when you were a kid and trying to think back to like when you were in those shoes, like how to handle kids in their situations, and what
Yeah.
that process looks like.
Yeah.
And obviously with like what you're talking about with like your wife Melissa, and how you guys, are in so alignment on what you guys are doing and kind of direction that you're heading. Um, which shout out to Melissa, right?
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, Superwoman, which is amazing. Kind of with where you guys are at right now, right? Just kind of the success you've had, the journey you've had, the
Hmm.
kids and the sports and everything. Um, you know, Looking back kind of on your life when you were 18,
Yeah.
right? Something we like to talk about a lot is you could look back on your life and you see yourself at 18.
Hmm.
What did you imagine your life would be like?
What did I imagine? Gosh, at 18, I thought I was going to live forever, you know?
Shit, we all do, right?
And I thought I would be an entrepreneur. And I've told this to several people. My wife literally has my dream job. I was all about international. I always had this wanderlust and wanted to travel and did a study abroad in France. And I remember even in second grade, pretending I was my dad at my little desk in second grade and setting up my desk the way I imagined my dad's desk was at his work. And I was going to be the business guy. And I imagined sitting in my chair and someone coming in with an important meeting or walking off the elevator and there's a million things going on in an international level. And that's everything my wife has done, which is crazy. So I get to watch someone do it,
And live vicariously through her.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, and the thing is, like when I was 18, even like with football and all that stuff, I've realized this, and I try to apply this to my kid. I was in love with all the superfluous stuff, like in football. I wanted to start my junior year because I wanted to run through the band when they called my name. That was my goal. Yeah. And then I got that, and I did it the first time. I'm like, cool. If I get benched, at least I got to do it one time.
Yeah.
You know, it was never about putting in the work to get there, and that's what I'm trying to do with my son. Is like, you know, give me 5 minutes. Let's shoot some basketballs for 5 minutes, and just. I'm sure you've read Atomic Habits. You know, so I'm all about like, okay, if I didn't do it today, I need to back it down and make it the goal a little bit smaller so I can take that next step
for sure.
To go from there. And that's why I talked to Gil just now about like, I need to get my processes going with my CRM because that's, you know, I thought I could get it set up and all this stuff done up to now. And I'm not happy where I am. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a step back and be a newbie and humble myself and ask for help.
And that's huge, right? And I think, you know, someone that's a vet that's been doing it long enough, the fact that you have the wherewithal to know you need to make an adjustment, right? Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yeah.
It's amazing that it's easier for people that have been in the game a little bit longer that know to make the adjustments than newer people because they just kind of want to run and gun, right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge adjustment. In terms of talking about kind of your life, family life, work life, how do you harmonize the balance of being able to do all these different things between staying steady on work and then staying steady on family?
Oh, I don't believe in balance.
Agreed.
At all.
Harmony. We like to say harmony.
Harmony, yeah. I don't. You know what? One of the more influential books for me when I was growing up was "I Am Third" by Gail Sayers, and he lived by this mantra that the Lord is first, my friends are second, and I am third. And that's kind of how I know that's ingrained in me. And so that's, you know, putting your friends first, family, friends, putting them first is kind of what I do, you know, and kind of because I can be happy, honestly, and I can even see my wife's eyes rolling right now. I can be happy anywhere. You put me in a situation and I'll figure out a way to get comfortable with it and then go from there. And so that's where the harmony comes from. And you know, and trying to, it's not easy, you know, like with my wife, like us aligning together, you know, it's not easy and it's hard and it's high stress, especially for the things that she's capable of achieving. And, you know, trying to get things out of the way, but also trying to contribute, you know, as a man, you want to be a contributor,
the provider,
and,
protector,
and you don't want to be competitive, but you want to be, you know, so there's all this stuff going on. And honestly, it's back to Frozen 2. Just do the next right thing.
One day at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
One day at a time.
Just 1 day, 1 minute at a time. You know, just get there. Just write it on your calendar. Make it happen. You know. So
be in the moment. Be where your feet are. Kind of live in the moment.
Yeah,
dude, I lie. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that you kind of the way you conceptualize everything to kind of make it work and make the kind of all the wheels turn where it works for you and your family. So. Looking back at 18-year-old Steve, right? Let's return back to 18-year-old Steve.
The bastard.
The bastard just ran through the band in high school.
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice you would want to give him right now?
You know what? I'll think of something, but right now I want to say I'd be scared to tell him anything because I'm so happy right now
Yep.
that I would be scared that the smallest thing could influence me meeting my wife, having my kids. It
100%.
terrifies me that, oh my God, if this little thing didn't happen, and actually it's incredible because I think about that to meet Melissa, what it was for my parents to meet each other, and just, and you think
Any small event.
exponentially, yeah, it could have changed everything. But I would have told that guy to probably take school seriously.
Okay.
That would be the thing. Be more embarrassed when you didn't get your homework done. Like have some pride.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, what the hell?
Yeah.
You're a smart person. You shouldn't have gotten those grades.
Don't be such an asshole.
Exactly.
And it's funny that you say that,
Exactly.
right? Because oftentimes people talk about a lot about regret, or I should have done this differently.
Hmm.
Could we have done things differently in our lives? Yes, but would our life be completely different? Probably.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to like regret, a lot of people
Hmm.
talk about like, oh, if I can go back and change this, I would. Are there things that I wish have gone differently in my life that weren't great at the time?
Yeah.
100%. But what I always tell people is we do the best we can with the knowledge we have at the time that we have it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what leads us to who and what we are today. And
Hmm.
if we went back and made all these changes and erased all the mistakes, who would we be today?
Yeah.
And to that point is you might not be in the chair right now.
Yeah.
You might be somewhere across the world. You might be in France. You might be doing, your international dream job. It could be a completely different story. And what I would tell my 18-year-old self is just keep going.
Yeah.
Continue doing what you're doing. Make the mistakes. Obviously, do the right thing. Don't
Hmm.
overthink life, but just keep going, and you'll get to
Yeah.
where you got to go. And been through hell and back a million times. I will say that, but I also wouldn't change those things that I've been through because it's made me who I am today.
Yeah.
So, with the entire conversation kind of coming to wrap up and
Hmm.
learning a lot more about you,
Hmm.
learning a lot more about where you've been through life and kind of how life has gone for you
Hmm.
later down the road, when
Hmm.
all is said and done, one thing I love talking about because we talk about legacy here often, is when you look down the road and then it's you're getting to that point and you can look back on your life. What would you like to be remembered for, and what do you want your legacy to be?
Um, just a great father and a great husband. Those are the two big things. I had my kids when I was older. I'm 55 right now, so I have a 7 and 9-year-old. Most of my friends have grandkids at this age. So it's important to me that the time I have with my kids, because I'm not going to be with them when I thank God I have both my parents still. I will probably not see my children's 55th birthday, and
Put some
you know
positive
what?
energy
I'm
out there.
actually hoping Elon Musk figures the whole thing
The
out.
health
And
thing,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But I just want to be remembered as a good father, and actually first a good husband.
Love that. It's admirable.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, dude.
So
Well,
cool.
listen, man, I appreciate you jumping into the first
Yeah.
version of you sitting down with the Dag Life podcast. It was great learning more about you, and I'm excited to have you back.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for watching another episode of Dag Life Podcast. See you next time.